very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. It is Thursday, and first, she wins in. This woman sleeps with her device. She does. You can say that I said that. Hazel is first this morning, Peter Bishop second, Anthea third, Chester Simon fourth, Benedict Cador fifth. Thriving Thursday. Hey folks, so good to see you guys this morning. Thank you very much for joining us for the Thursday morning edition of Gudday Grenada. And as always, we try to put together a nice little package for the next hour or so. And I hope you're going to be entertained and informed and whatever else. Always nice to see you guys. Let's get right down to brass tacks this morning, my dear friends, and we're going to begin this morning with a question. Is she a victim or an activist? Got you scratching your head, right? Well, you'll find out what that question's all about in just a wee bit. And then we're going to go into the national report. And then after that, Mr. Allan, I spoke with him last night, so pretty darn sure that he's going to be with us this morning. Always is. Allan's very, very, very loyal. All right, so there's your rundown. Now, what is Georgie Porgy talking about? About, is she an activist or a victim? As you're well aware, my dear friends, the climate change debate rolls on. Yes, sirree, it does. In fact, our Prime Minister was at the United Nations this week, espousing his support for the pro-climate change movement. He may even have met, I don't know, but he may even have met this young lady, I don't know. Young lady you're about to meet this morning. Her name is Greta Thunberg. Thunberg is a 16-year-old from Sweden who is on a mission to mobilize the world into taking climate change seriously. This week, she addressed the United Nations, and I'm going to play for you right now that address.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight? You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspects of equity and climate justice. They also rely on my generation sucking hundreds of billions of tons of your CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely exist. So a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us, we who have to live with the consequences. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today, because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us, but the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you. We will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now, is where we draw the line. The world is waking up, and change is coming whether you like it or not. Thank you.
Boy, I'll tell you, that is one determined young lady. Whether what she's saying is true or not, there are a lot of people who are still debating it. Some of you watching right now do believe that climate change is real. Some of you don't. It's an issue that it's on the table. It's going to go on for quite some time. Now, even though this lady is as aggressive as she is, as you saw there are some who believe that the United Nations is taking advantage of this youngster, 16 years old. You're about to find out there are people who believe that this kid is being used.
If there's a looming threat to the future of civilization, it is surely idiocy and ideologically driven lunacy. Good governance, democratic outcomes and sensible policy are all under threat right across the Western world. And it's not the mainstream voters doing the damage. On the contrary, they insist on common sense. It's the so-called media and political elites that are indulging in misleading, anti-intellectual, emotive and ideological campaigns. This is no more obvious than in the climate change debate, which should be a serious issue. But instead of debating facts, science, economics, technology, costs and benefits, and of course policy options, the United Nations hands the floor over to a hysterical teenager.
You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones.
Well, aren't we the lucky ones to hear about it? Now, this ought to be pretty hilarious stuff. We should be able to giggle and scoff at it, of course. But laugh as we might, there are two things about this that are very, very disturbing. First, the adults in the room were applauding this. There are actual grown-ups there at that UN event that are so malleable, so intent on hyperbole and alarmism that they're willing to cheer this sort of teenage hysteria at a global climate change summit that's supposed to discuss real issues in rational terms. And second, you have to worry about the speaker. She is, of course, Greta Thunberg, a Swedish vegan climate campaigner who's been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, anxiety disorders and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Now, we all know about the emotional roller coaster rides that teenagers go through, which is why we tend to encourage them, nurture them, without taking their obsessions too seriously. But this girl seems overwrought, and instead of caring for her, there seems to be a movement taking advantage of her, and taking advantage of her obviously confected, unwarranted and overblown angst.
People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, the adults didn't go and console this girl or counsel her, you know, take her off stage, comfort her, educate her and calm her down with some facts. They just applauded her. They continue to pump her up. They love the publicity and they love the show. Now, Greta Thunberg is the poster girl for this sort of hysteria, but it is widespread. Children and teenagers, as we know, are prone to group emotional experience and they're not armed with the facts and the media encourages them. The media just encourages them to go on with scant regard for the facts and an overemphasis on the emotion, and we end up with lots of stuff just like this.
I just don't know if they're going to do anything. And I'm so concerned with the fact that if they're not going to change anything, then what's going to happen to humankind? What's going to happen to the whole world if no one does anything?
We are on the outskirts of the biggest catastrophe humanity has ever faced, and our government is doing nothing.
Honestly, if the climate issue is as bad as the adult alarmists and the political activists say, they don't need to do this. Surely most sensible people around the world are turned off by this embarrassing sideshow. No wonder, and thank God, that Scott Morrison is steering clear of the climate summit, although these issues are bound to come up when he speaks at the UN General Assembly. But believe me, as someone who's been there for top-level meetings many times, the UN is no place to expect rational debate or serious consideration of workable policy solutions. Having said all that, there was one thing that Greta Thunberg said in New York that I wholeheartedly agree with.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean.
Yes, Greta, you should be at home and in school. You should lighten up. You should be saving your hysteria for some pop band, perhaps, and using your time to learn as much about the environment as you can. And those adults encouraging you at the United Nations know that all too well, that they're using you for their own amusement and their blatant political grandstanding.
Well, there you have it. Now, sure that many of you are aware that supposedly aviation is one of the major contributors to global warming. And to demonstrate just how serious this young lady is about protecting the environment, she had to get from Switzerland to New York to address the United Nations, the address which you saw a few minutes ago, and that, by the way, was earlier on this week. She actually came across the Atlantic on a yacht. A yacht, not just any yacht. And I'll tell you, this raised even more questions. It's given fodder to those who do not believe that climate change is real. Check this out.
She has taken European parliaments by storm, but didn't find a way to get over to North America that wouldn't be ripped apart as hypocritical until the owners of a multi-million-dollar high-tech yacht, a sailboat, said, "We can sail you across the sea," and you can say that is a carbon-neutral jaunt, and I suppose it is if you ignore the multi-million-dollar cost of the high-tech sailboat and the fact that the entire crew that's with her will jet back to Europe. So there'll be 6 flights, not just one. But she is coming to America, where she'll be met, of course, with rapt applause by the left. And do you doubt she'll come to Canada, too, to be embraced by Justin Trudeau and Catherine McKenna? But I saw a rare dissenting report on Greta Thunberg in the Sunday Times of London, perhaps the most prestigious newspaper in the United Kingdom. And it goes through with meticulous detail the reality of Greta Thunberg. No, she's not a multinational mastermind at the age of 16. She's a puppet working for multinational masterminds, most of whom are investors in technology that competes with oil and gas. Green lobbyists pouring millions of dollars into Greta Thunberg for the hope of $1 billion in return. Joining us now via Skype to talk about this is our friend Mark Morano, the boss of ClimateDepot.com. Mark, great to see you.
Thank you, Ezra. Happy to be here.
You know, it's difficult to take on a young girl, especially, she's 16, but she looks younger. She wears ponytails and dresses, I'd say she dresses like she's 12 or 13. She has an unusual look to her that makes her look even younger. I think she has some, I'm not going to call them disabilities, but let's just say conditions. But all of that serves to blunt any criticism of her, because if you dare criticize the fact that this is a young, unschooled girl, I mean, literally, she went on a school strike to protest the climate, who's regurgitating talking points. If you point that out, well, you're obviously sexist and ageist and ableist. I think it's a brilliant scam to shut critics up.
Yes. In fact, here's what's happening here. She came on the scene pretty much last year with all these school strikes, and she was attended the UN Climate Summit, which I attended in Poland last year. And next, she inspired in the United States back in March, I believe it was April, a whole day school strike here with the climate activists. But what's happened here with Greta, she has become, the media is using her as bait. Climate activists are using her as bait. Scientific American publication came after me personally, not for anything I said or did, but because I retweeted some what they considered unkind comments about Greta. So now we're, of course, I retweet everyone, on the extreme ends of all sides of the climate debate. I have a lot of fun on my debate. But what's happened is the media has set her up. And if anyone dare go after her, and we saw one, Andrew Bolt in Australia, who they had, I think his newspaper pulled a tweet about his article because they got such pressure from the establishment. How dare you criticize a girl with a disability? Yeah, you have the audacity to criticize her. Yet on the other hand, Ezra, she's going to be the keynote speaker this year. She's going to be the only face that matters at the United Nations Summit here in New York City, coming in the United States in the third week of September. She'll also be the keynote speaker out at the UN Summit in Santiago, Chile. And yet she's out there spouting all this nonsense. She wants governments to act to save kids like her from climate devastation, as though governments can regulate it. And if you dare criticize her, not only are you a child bully, but you are someone who's mean to people with disabilities. And this is how they have it set up. She's the perfect, from beginning to end, puppet/spokesman for this movement, because she embodies everything that they want to do: indoctrinate kids, intimidate their opponents, and come up with platitudes of utter nonsense on a minute-by-minute basis if you follow her on Twitter.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show.
Well, there you have it, folks. As far as I'm concerned, mission accomplished. I did this little segment here this morning hoping to stimulate some thought on the part of you viewers and listeners. Obviously, I did, because there are a lot of comments there on social media. Unfortunately, I'm trying to be on time with Mr. B this morning. I still have to run the national report before I get to him, so I'm going to forego those. But those of you who are curious, go on back, read some of the stuff that's being said there. Very, very interesting stuff. You decide whether it's real or whether it's not. Folks, let me take a little break, and then we'll come back with the national report.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
is swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
"11 men honored for heroic acts that saved the lives of passengers after minibus plunges into the sea." Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, September 25th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. 11 Grenadians were honored on Wednesday for their heroic acts that saved the lives of a number of people on board a minibus that plunged into the waters of the Carenage on Friday. A recognition ceremony was held at police headquarters for Jeffrey Irvin, Adriel Pursu, Noel Bethel, Akim Phillip, Teron Hazel, Jake Edmund, Frederick Braffett, police constables Joel Hosford, Harris Collier, Matthew Felix and Kevin Wickham, who were presented with certificates of appreciation and a Royal Grenada Police Force plaque. They were also presented with tokens of appreciation by Digicel Grenada and Sol Grenada EC Limited. 3 of the divers and 1 police officer were also further recognized by an anonymous citizen. They were commended by Acting Police Commissioner Edwin Martin for their prompt response.
Rescuing several persons from a trapped bus underwater is no easy feat. Faced with what would have appeared to be a hopeless situation, extreme panic and anxiety would have been the prevailing emotions among the trapped individuals. This no doubt would have exacerbated the rescue effort and attempts. Rescuing individuals under those circumstances is nothing short of a miraculous accomplishment, directly attributed to your quick, decisive, and selfless action. Hence today, we, the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, embrace you as our real-life heroes.
He added that the individual and collective actions of the men saved the nation from a tragedy of a much greater magnitude.
It is a reminder, too, for the licensing authority to rethink the systems that are in place and, where appropriate, recommend legislative changes with a view of enhancing public safety on our nation's roads. In any democratic society, the primary role of the police is to protect life and property. More importantly, your selfless acts, as demonstrated on September 20th, illustrates that you are acutely aware of the need to be your brother's keeper.
CEO of Digicel Grenada, Shrivon Redhead, presented the men with a package that included a cellular phone and other items. She used the opportunity to remind them that it's not the gift that is important, but the selfless act performed that resulted in so many lives being saved.
You're your brother's keeper. And it's funny to see the reaction of persons when they're like, oh my God, they were so selfless. There was no hesitation. Like, we counted the seconds down when we looked at the video. It was a matter of 3 seconds, somebody was already in the water. And I would like to think this is what true Grenadian represents. This is what we should be representing across the nation in terms of helping each other. And I was so pleased to see that we were selfless and we were courageous and we were heroic, and we did collaborate, not just civilian to the left and officers to the right, but we worked together.
The men also received a monetary reward from Sol EC Limited. The presentation was made by manager Colin Francis. He said their selfless act will be on the minds of every Grenadian for a very long time.
You did not do it to be honored. You did not do it knowing what's coming next. You did it because it was your first human instinct. And I hope your courageous and brave acts is an example for many other people, not just in Grenada, but throughout the region. I trust and hope that we've taken the example that you've set, and it's sparked some measure of hope that all is not lost. Sometimes when we read the news and we think that all is lost, there's still people right in our own backyards, our own neighbors, who have what it takes to display the kind of humanity that we expect.
Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honourable Keith Mitchell and his CARICOM colleagues met on Wednesday with the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. The India CARICOM leaders meeting, held on the fringes of the United Nations General Assembly, is intended to strengthen relations between CARICOM countries and India. There are several key announcements coming out of the meeting, with India promising substantial support for regional countries. We will bring you those details on Thursday. Grenada and its CARICOM neighbors have long had excellent bilateral relations with India, but the aim now is to improve relations at the multilateral level. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Grenada, it's coming as the Ministry of Youth, Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts brings to you National Youth Week 2019, and it's one full week of activities, vibes and action as the nation turns their attention on the nation's youth. And it's from Saturday, October 19 till Saturday, November 2nd under the theme Embracing Opportunities, Soaring Higher. October 19th and 20th, National Community Service Weekend, island-wide. October 26th, Health Walk and Ministers Address. October 27th, Ecumenical Service and Peace Concerts. October 28th, Youth Vibe. October 29th, St. John's Youth Parliament. October 30th, Job Fair and Career Day. October 31st, Fun Nights. November 1st, Discovering Talents and Expo. And on November 2nd, it's National Youth Awards. So urging everyone to be a part of Youth Week 2019, October 19th to November 2nd.
Continuing the news, Health Minister Nicholas Steele says training is on the cards for the young Grenadians who worked with a team from the USNS Comfort to repair the oxygen plant at the General Hospital in St. George's. The plant is functioning once again after the joint teams worked to fix one compressor. While another compressor is still down, the hospital can generate oxygen at the moment. Minister Steele says it costs anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 EC per month to purchase oxygen from Trinidad if the local plant is not being utilized. The training is essential as the ministry seeks to ensure the health and well-being of patients.
Individuals have been identified to do the medical engineering side of not just the oxygen plant, but we've got numerous bits of equipment and so throughout the general hospital and healthcare facilities that we need to identify the individuals. Some of these individuals have been Amanis that have stepped up now and are performing yeoman service there. We're fortunate enough to have been working side by side with engineers, not just the U.S. engineers that have that visited last week, but the various engineers that come in to the general hospital and our healthcare facilities on the various maintenance visits and so. So yes, that is most important. Most important to have that. Those individuals have been identified, and it's just right now we need to up the game and send some away for training. While we have here who have been trained, we have two that have been trained as well, but it's a constant journey that we have to take.
Agriculture and tourism stakeholders are urged to brainstorm the best way possible to implement projects geared at improving the link between those sectors for the economic benefit of the country. We have details in this report by Karima Lewis, the Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture.
An agritourism policy setting workshop held at the Radisson Grenada Beach Resort recently set the stage for the implementation of projects geared towards the linkage of the tourism and agriculture sectors. The workshop was fully funded by the Technical Center for Agricultural and Rural Cooperation, CTA, and this organization will further contract a consultant to write proposals for the proper implementation of the project or projects geared toward the linking of those sectors. However, before all of this is done, the policy must first be developed. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Mr. Elvis Moraine, implores on the stakeholders to be gatekeepers of the policy.
We all know is that if we are going to go forward with a proper policy formation and policy direction, then of course, as we say colloquially, you'll be hitting and miss. And of course, we can't afford to waste resources, whether it's time, human, and of course financial in this regard. You have to ensure that this policy doesn't remain another beautiful document sitting on some shelf somewhere. All right? We have to put this to work.
The Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture Hemispheric Agrotourism Specialist Anna Harvey explains to the participants why it is so important to come up with a focus for project implementation in Grenada.
These proposals are to be submitted for consideration for funding in this big basket. If we don't use the money, we will lose it.
She questioned the focus that Grenada will be taking in the linking of agriculture to tourism.
What is Grenada going to focus on? It could be one big project with 3 modules, it could be 3 projects, but what is Grenada going to focus on in linking agriculture with tourism? Is it farm tourism? Is it culinary? Is it heritage? Is it wellness? Is it the policy itself? And how are you going to do that? Now, Steve is going to be working on preparing that proposal with a key number of stakeholders here in the room so that you write a good proposal for Grenada and it lands on the ground.
For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Karima Lewis.
And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks. Yes. Let's say good morning to Mr. Allan Baczynski. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am just fine. Nice to see you, sir. We are in a mad rush this morning because I tried to get you on as close as possible to 9:30. And it's now 9:34. So I'm not going to waste much time. I know that you've got some stuff you want to talk about this morning. Let's rock and roll.
Okay. True Enough is the title of a book that I've come across. And it addresses selective perception. That is the tendency of people observing the same facts to arrive at different descriptions of the said facts. So, for example, a photograph has made the rounds showing Callistra Faria and the current Minister of Information. His hand is outstretched Her hand is outstretched holding a recording device. Now, it is a fact that the photograph exists. What is in question is to whether or not the photograph was taken after the journalist had been pushed to the ground, or whether allegedly pushed, or whether the photograph recorded the fact of the journalist attempting to rise from the ground with the recording device outstretched. Now, the theory of selective perception indicates then that while the photograph is a fact, it shows two individuals, at least, in certain fixed positions. But depending on your prejudices, no amount of information coming subsequently to you having viewed the photograph will change your perception of what the photograph shows. In other words, if you are a government supporter, it shows that there has been no contact. And what it shows is a wicked individual possessed of the devil in front of a man of God. If, on the other hand, you are not a blind faith supporter of the current administration, you may be prepared to consider the possibility that there was contact and that what you are seeing is the result of said contact. So, the only fact that we can agree on is that there is a photograph. Now, the events surrounding that fact are open to interpretation depending on your prejudices, or let us say your biases. Every one of us brings bias to every discussion. The difficulty that we are faced with in the world today, though, is that when presented with facts, if the facts don't agree with our biases, we look for alternative facts. A very long time ago, former Vice President Al Gore published a documentary called An Inconvenient Truth. It had to do with global warming. We must be, 15 years on? And we are still talking about global warming and climate change, when in fact what we are faced with is global heating. I know that you have been following the 16 or 17-year-old activist from Sweden, Greta Thunberg, and her address to the United Nations, where she took pains to explain that she does not have a political agenda. She is not concerned with running for office. What she is saying is that the people who can make a difference are not doing it, and so that the planet continues to suffer as a result of human activity. The people who have the money and those who are looking to make more money to raise the masses of poor people into the middle class are the ones who are responsible for continuing to engage in activities which will result, unless there is a serious change, in the destruction of the planet as we know it. Climate heating, and I'm going to stop talking about climate change. Climate heating is a reality. Right now, I have put on a t-shirt because I couldn't come on to your program half naked. But let me tell you, I feeling real hot. I am perspiring. The humidity is uncomfortable. Every so often, even though we are in the hurricane season, we are in the rainy season, and during the rainy season, we expect to be in the hurricane season. You remember the hurricane season a few years ago got extended to November. It used to be when we were growing up, October all over. Now it's in November. That goes back to my recollection. I think it was in November the 18th, 1999, when we had the hurricane that went backwards, Hurricane Lenny. And we got a storm, a storm surge, which what's going on? Affected all the islands from St. Kitts all the way down to ourselves. I'm not sure if Trinidad was affected, with a storm surge on our leeward coastlines. The leeward coastline is the one that is sheltered from the wind and the waves, because Hurricane Lenny turned around and started moving back east, somewhere up by Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
That was in November. We're not supposed to have hurricanes in November. Now, we saw this year a most unusual occurrence where Hurricane Dorian sat for some 36 or more hours in the same place because its progress was prevented by a massive high-pressure system, more or less stationary over the continental United States. Now, these are facts, but different people will have different explanations if the facts don't coincide with their prejudices.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there are people who believe that because of the lifestyle of certain people in the Bahamas, or maybe it is because of the corruption of the government, or maybe it is because Sandals has a big property there, that the hurricane was sent as a punishment from the Creator. Those people believe what they believe. There are no facts which will change those beliefs. It is the same sorts of beliefs that allow tin pot dictators to do whatever they choose, regardless of what the Constitution may say, or whatever the rules and regulations of the public service may say, because there are people who believe that tin pot dictators have been chosen by God to rule. And you will hear them use the term, so-and-so is ruling. There's a difference between governing and ruling. Governance requires an adherence to laws. Ruling requires only a belief in the divine and that your authority comes from a higher power. You cannot change the minds of those who believe by presenting them with facts. All that they need to see is that the tin pot dictator holds an office, and as far as they are concerned, that is true enough. It does not have to be completely true. It does not have to be wholly true. It only has to be true enough. And in the event that anyone listening draws the wrong conclusion, President Trump, when faced with the fact, the reality, that a whistleblower provided a transcript or an alert or a communication regarding a breach of international norms, a breach of diplomacy, an outright threat to the duly elected head of a foreign country, Trump says, in reference to a phone call, mind you, that it was a beautiful letter. And when you see the letter, you will understand. And the Congress of the United States, that is the upper house, the Senate, is comprised of Bible-thumping, God-fearing, rifle-carrying Christians who believe that Donald Trump can do no wrong, and they will continue to support that blustering orange buffoon until the end of time.
So it's not just, you're done. So it's not just here in Grenada.
I did not mention Grenada, did I? Apart from the photograph of the journalist and the Minister of Information. So don't let the fact that I mentioned Grenada in that context divert from my observations regarding tin pot dictators and that blustering orange buffoon in the United States of America.
All right. Mr. Brzezinski, over the past 15 minutes or so, you said an awful lot, and I've been making some notes here. I want to just step back for a minute to Greta Thunberg. Do you believe that this youngster is being abused by the United Nations and the proponents of climate change?
No. I believe the girl good for herself. She has a viewpoint. She is focused. She is able to communicate it. And she has no agenda other than the fact that she is 16 or 17 years old and she would hope to live a normal, useful, productive life.
You know,
and she's communicating that message.
I don't have any doubt that our youngsters are becoming more conscious about climate change and the possible ill effects. But do you see any possibility there that, you know, a certain interest might overreach to a youngster like this and abuse her or misuse her?
As I said, I think she appears to be focused on what she's doing. She clearly has a platform which she will take advantage of, because while the climate science deniers populate centers of power, the people who understand the science are going to become more and more vocal. And because of the developments in communication technology, the facts will be disseminated to a wider and wider audience. The facts are not going to change the minds of those currently in power, but the facts will, I think, become more accessible and more acceptable by the next generation.
All right, now listening to you, A.B., I get the feeling that you are, I don't want to say you are a proponent of climate change, but you're leaning in the direction that climate change is real. And earlier on in this little piece here, you explained that you're hot. I'm hot. I mean, anybody here in Grenada will tell.
I hope you realize you just repeated the first two sentences of Arrow's tune. I'm hot, you hot, 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 hot. You should play the music.
It's hot, A.B., it's hot. But it seems to me the issue is not that it's not heating up. I mean, it's just obvious that this place is getting hotter. But it seems to me that the argument is whether or not those increases are due to man-made causes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear, when we first started talking about the hole in the ozone layer 20 plus years ago, and conventions were signed to phase out the use of hydrocarbons. Action was taken internationally. I mean, we saw it here because there is a national ozone unit in the Ministry of Energy, I think it is, and the certain hydrocarbons used in refrigeration and air conditioning were phased out. And the satellite data shows that the expansion of the hole in the ozone layer was retarded. I don't know if in fact the hole has started becoming smaller. I'm not certain of that, because our attention has been overtaken by the facts that the Antarctic ice shelf is carving off into the South Atlantic Ocean. The facts are that glaciers all over mountain ranges are in retreat. The facts are that the ice shelf on Greenland is retreating. The facts are that there's no longer year-round sea ice up over the North Pole. And the Russians are sending icebreakers through the Northwest Passage, which was previously navigable only during a few months in summer, because they are now going to be exploring for hydrocarbon resources in the frozen north, in Siberia. And if they can navigate across the North Pole year-round, it's great for them. Not so great for us.
You know, AB, one of the things that makes this so difficult is that it's hard to believe what you're hearing, because so many people, especially our governments, have lied to us over and over and over again. Yesterday morning, I came across something on my smartphone, a video which was suggesting that this climate change thing is all a hoax and that the proponents are using false data to get people to buy into climate change. One of the things they pointed out was that there's an island in the Pacific which had been shrinking in size as a result of rising sea levels. And the people who put out this particular video went on to allegedly produce evidence to the contrary. AB, I wanted to pull out that clip and run it on the program this morning. Would you believe I spent about 4 hours yesterday afternoon trying to find the clip? I mean, I couldn't download it on my smartphone. I wanted to get it down on my desktop here. And not for the life of me could I find that damn clip. You know?
What happened to it?
It just disappeared. I've been searching YouTube. I have been searching Facebook. Can't find the damn thing. But listen, if I find some time today, I'm going after it again, because it was a very, very interesting piece. They are refuting all the data that has been put out by these governments and authorities supporting climate change.
Well, I don't know, but probably 5 or 6 years ago, it was pointed out to me by the manager of a property in the Wester Hall area, in the sheltered harbor there. And the manager of that property was pointing out to me that they had seen over the 5 years or whatever it is, that a jetty that was there had become almost submerged because of rising sea levels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one indication. The other thing is that people who promote the hoax theories, the conspiracy theories, remember, facts are irrelevant to them. Whatever is an inconvenient truth, they will amend the facts to suit. So, for example, there is a view that the Americans never actually landed on the moon.
Yes, I've heard that one.
You know this?
Yes.
Good. So there are people who, and they will tell you that they have scientific proof. So it means that their facts are alternate facts. And frankly, there's little point in arguing with them. Every one of these conspiracy theories has either some part of objective reality far back in history, or there is something recently that they can twist to their own ends. So, for example, it is a historical fact that medical experiments were carried out in the 1930s in Tuskegee and wherever Tuskegee is, Alabama or Mississippi, with regard to monitoring the effects of syphilis among a vulnerable population. The historical fact that that took place has been quoted by conspiracy theorists who just recently were telling people not to go on the visiting U.S. naval ship because they were going to take their blood, or they were going to give them AIDS, or all sorts of interesting theories. Well, those people are entitled, but the 4,000 plus people who received attention, that 4,000 I heard on the radio, so I'm not vouching for the figure. I don't know. But it was put out that some 4,000 people received medical attention. So we can look to them and see if they end up with AIDS or syphilis or whatever it is.
Okay, but okay, Amy, you have a point. You have a point, but I want you to try and justify this for me. It's hard to believe the authorities. You know, the conspiracy theorists are saying that the authorities are lying. Right, that's fine. But Amy, look at what's happening right here in Grenada. Simple case. We are told our economy is booming. Booming. And people on the street catching their oil. How can you?
Yes.
That's just
remember.
one example.
Let's go back. There are lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Statistics.
So if you look at statistics, the statistics show that construction was in fact booming. So you've got a couple of hotels under construction. When the construction is finished, the people who are working on those hotels have to get a debush in work.
Okay, that's your rationale. All right, Mr. Bishop.
Statistic.
Yes, it's a statistic. It's a statistic. Mr. B, Mr. B.
Oh, talking about that, even the statistics can be suspect depending on the origin of those statistics. So, for example, the Royal Grenada Police Force put out statistics saying that we had 27,000 visitors to Grenada over the carnival season. The Grenada Tourism Authority says that in fact we had 13,000 visitors.
15% less.
No. What are you talking about? 13,000 as opposed to 27,000.
Yeah.
50% less.
50%, yeah.
But hold on. Oh, I thought you said 15. 50% less. But you see, I prefer to look at the statistics, which would indicate that the Royal Grenada Police Force found that there were 100% more visitors. That is what you call booming.
Booming, man. All right. AB, listen, man, listen. It's been a very interesting morning, and I want to apologize to our viewers and listeners because, yes, I confess, this morning I have paid very little attention to what you folks have been posting, simply because I really wanted to get that climate change issue in and then hear what Allan had to say. But here's a good way to wrap up this morning's program. There are 3 posts that have just come in, and I'm going to share them with you, AB, and then I'll let you go. Renewed Purpose says, AB, it is a fact that the Americans never landed on the moon. Wait a minute, please, sir. Do some digging and you will see all the flaws in the video showing the landing. In one of James Bond's movies, they exposed the lies. So says Renewed Purpose. John Nosyneck says, Renewed Purpose, download the film Capricorn 1. It makes you think. Make a note of that, Amy. Go and download the film.
No, I don't have to. I saw Capricorn 1 in London when it came out.
Okay.
With James Brolin. Great film.
All right. Anthony Arello sums it up. She says, and political propaganda. Renewed Purpose comes back and says, even the space shuttle that exploded in the 90s, do you know that people have seen all of these people who supposedly died in that space shuttle explosion? Yes,
Sally-Ann Ride.
yes.
Sally-Ann Ride was the teacher astronaut who was on board that. It was in 1985, I think.
Okay.
The Challenger disaster.
Renewed Purpose.
I don't know how I retain all of this trivia is beyond me.
Because you're retired, you got a lot of time on your hands, man.
Let's dig it out.
Renewed Purpose, take a look at your screen. That gentleman you're looking at there, the one next to me, that's one of the people who was on that space shuttle. Ryan Jabon says, climate change is. If humans don't reduce their carbon footprint, we are in for more dangerous climate experiences. USA Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in their Negro males is demonic. Okay, Avi, I'm gonna let you get out of I'm hot in here. I've got the air conditioning turned off. It's making some noise. So thank you very much, sir. You have a great day.
Okay.
All right.
Have a great day too. Okay.
All right. Mr. Allan Baczynski there. Wow. Wow. What a morning. Folks, quick break. Then we'll wrap it up.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Alrighty, folks, just about time to pull the curtain down with a parting word from the Holy Scriptures. This morning it comes to you from the second book of Corinthians, chapter 6, verses 14 to 18. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Christ and Belial? Or what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement is there between the temple of God and idols. For we are the temple of the living God. As it is said, I will live with them and walk with them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. And I will be a father to you, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. Second book of Corinthians, chapter 6, 14 to 18. John says, is that the police at the door, George? No, it's not the police. That was a motorcycle going by here. That was a motorcycle going by here. Can you believe that? Why are these guys, and cars as well, allowed to ride around with their mufflers in that state? And some of them actually do that deliberately to their mufflers. Anyway, let's see here. Renewed Purpose says, George, you can do some reading on HAARP and ionospheric heaters, and you will understand all the lies. Also read up on cloud seeding and weather modification. Thanks a lot, guys. 6 minutes after the hour of Pilgrims, thank you so much for another wonderful morning. Always a pleasure having you around. I'm going to pull out of here right now and wish you a great day. You have a wonderful day, and I'm sending God's blessings to you. By His grace, let's get together again tomorrow morning.